Welcome back to Growth Catalyst. Welcome back. And in this episode, we are going to look at persuasive communication in meetings. We spend a lot of time in meetings. A lot of people lament about it. A lot of people joke about it. There are memes and memes and memes and cartoons about meetings and how so much of time in any given office is spent in meetings. Not only in office, even if you're working from home, you are probably in 6 hours of meeting in any given 8 hour day. So, given the importance of meetings, whether we joke about it or cartoon about it, meetings are going to be there and meetings are there for a reason. It is the only medium that we know of, at least in terms of face to face, coming together and exchanging ideas, sharing our ideas. And that is why it is going to stay. You may use email, you may use sharing information over mail and over documents and so on and so forth, but nothing like meeting in person or meeting online to see the faces and to exchange ideas. So, given that meetings are going to be here for, for as long as we can think of in the future, what is it that you should do to ensure that you come across as a persuasive communicator in any of these meetings? These meetings could be meetings with your team, meetings with your boss, meetings with your client. It could be a negotiation meeting. Whatever the nature of the meeting is, what is it that you should do to be persuasive in that meeting? That's what we are going to look at. Let's jump in. The very first thing that you should do is to prepare for the meeting. Many times, people, unfortunately, are totally unprepared for the meetings that they themselves organize. I've seen meeting after meeting where people are ill-equipped to handle the meeting. It becomes one more tick box in their long list of things to be done on the day, but doesn't achieve much for either them or the people who are going into the meeting. And these are the things which make meetings a good subject of cartoons and memes. All of this can be done in a much better manner. Simple thing is to prepare for the meeting. If you are the person who's organizing the meeting, you should prepare for the meeting. If you are a person who's called to the meeting, again, you should prepare for the meeting. That's the least that you can do to ensure that the meeting goes productively. Because a meeting of, let's say, 1 hour and with 10 people means that 10 hours, man hours are going to utilize for the meeting. And it is better to be utilized in a proper, productive, good manner. What is it that you should do in terms of preparation? One, understand the purpose of the meeting and ensure that the purpose is shared with everybody who's called for the meeting. Why are you calling this meeting? Is it that it is there in the picture and therefore it is one more meeting in this long series of pictures? Please think about it. Is it that you want to meet your team and understand what the status is? So you may want to think about whether you need this meeting or whatever that you want to understand can be done over mail, can be done over call. So not everything has to be done in person, not everything has to be done online meetings. A lot of times, if all you need is an information update, it can be done on a mail or it can be done on a 5 minute call. So you need to be very, very clear about the purpose of why you want to meet your team. It could be that your boss has called for a meeting and therefore you are there for a meeting. He has given a topic for you to present and therefore you are preparing for that. And even there, you need to know the purpose of the meeting. The purpose need not necessarily be the topic that you're asked to present. The purpose could be larger. And the better you understand the purpose of why you are called into a meeting, you can give and contribute to the meeting in a lot more productive fashion. It could be a meeting with your client. So you need to understand what is the purpose, why the client is calling for a meeting or why you are calling a meeting with a client. The purpose has to be very clear. The purpose has to be shared with the participants of the meeting in advance so that they also are in a frame of mind to contribute better to the meeting. One way of thinking about the purpose is to put it in smart frame, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound in terms of whatever that you want to achieve, so that people know that this is what the purpose of the meeting is and this is why they are going to be there. The second thing that you want to do is to think about who are all there in the meeting. Who should you call? Many times I've seen that people are there in the meeting, 5 people, 6 people are there in the meeting, they're discussing. Suddenly they realize that a sixth person, seventh person should also have been there in the meeting, who's very crucial for the meeting. Suddenly frantic calls are made to those people. Hey, are you available? Can you come for 10 minutes? Yeah, we are in a meeting. We are discussing this. Can you please illustrate this and so on? While it is okay once or twice because we can't think of everything every single time, if it becomes a habit, if it becomes a pattern, then you need to rethink about whether you are thinking through who or all should be there. It all starts again with a purpose. If this is a purpose, if this is objective, and if this is the topic about which you want to discuss, and hence to meet this topic, to meet this purpose, who are all the persons who are going to be either contributors to the topic or going to be affected parties to the topic, and therefore all of these people as stakeholders should be there in the hall, in the meeting. It is much easier to have everybody in the same place to discuss so that everybody wants the discussion and go after in terms of what needs to be done. Otherwise, if you just communicate what has happened in the meeting, people may not get that ownership. So some of these psychological principles have to be kept in mind while thinking and designing who all should be there in the meeting as either contributors to the meeting or affected parties to the meeting, and hence they have a stake in the topic, the role, the purpose of the meeting. The third thing that you may also want to do in terms of thinking about the people in the meeting, especially if you're called to the meeting from a discussion perspective or presentation perspective. Okay, CEO is going to be there, marketing head is going to be there, the client is going to be there. Okay, this is a role of the meeting, this is a purpose of the meeting. And when you keep all of this in mind, your content can be tailored a lot more effectively. The way to think about it is, what would they look forward from this meeting? What would they look to finalize, understand, finish as objective in this meeting? Not everything is talked about as objectives of the meeting. All the people have something to look forward to take home from these meetings. So you should put yourself in the shoes of these participants and think about what is it that they want to see? What is it that they want to conclude at the end of the meeting, so that you can prepare for it, so that your contribution comes across as a lot better, a lot effective compared to anything else that you have ever done before. When you do this consistently, you would also be seen as a very valuable employee who brings a lot to the table every time there is a meeting. And all of this builds a lot of things towards your career as a. But the point is, you should think about who are all going to be there in the meeting, given the purpose, and hence what is it that you should prepare in terms of content, in terms of the way you deliver, in terms of the key point that you keep in mind, so that your delivery in the meeting, your contribution in the meeting becomes a lot more effective. When you know the purpose of the meeting, when you know the people who are going to be there in the meeting, when you know that these are the things that they would expect from the meeting, it is easier to also foresee the challenges or the objections that may come up. If you are there on a negotiation table, you should be able to run through in your mind as to what the objections the other party would bring to while you discuss it. You want to achieve something, but they also want to achieve something. And what is it that they might want to achieve? What is it that you are willing to give? And therefore, what are the objections which may arise? When you think through logically on this, you are able to prepare so much better. And not only on negotiating table, every single instance in our life is like a negotiation. You are willing to do something, other people want a lot more or a lot different things to come from you, which is maybe possible, may not be possible. So every situation is a negotiation situation. But even otherwise, you should be able to think through, okay, these people are going to be there in the table, these people are going to be there in the meeting, and all of these points, all of these issues are going to be raised. And hence, what are the objections? What are the challenges that you are going to expect in this meeting? And are you prepared for that? especially if you are the person who is convening the meeting or you are the person who is going to deliver the key presentation in the meeting. All of these preparations, thinking through in terms of purpose, in terms of the people, in terms of key challenges would help you in terms of preparing for the meeting in a wonderful manner. In terms of preparation, thinking about all this also would help you to prepare a clear agenda, which needs to be ideally circulated much before the meeting. So when I see, okay, I've been called for the meeting, okay, this is the agenda, then I know what is going to happen in the meeting. Then I can also prepare myself as a participant in the meeting, which you have called for, in a much better manner. People really want to contribute. Many times the agenda is not clear. Many times the purpose is not clear. They're also one of the participants in the meeting, not very clear as to what their role in that meeting is. All of these reasons are the contributory reasons for why meeting is such a malign word. But life can become much better for any kind of meeting if we take the right steps in preparing the purpose, preparing for the participants, preparing for the challenges, preparing agenda, keeping all of this in mind and circulate that agenda well in advance. We looked at the first phase, which is even before the meeting begins, as to what preparation should go into that meeting. Now, let's say you walk into that meeting. People are there coming in and settling in. Meeting is about to begin, meeting is beginning, and you are kicking off the meeting. Now, it's very essential and critical that you build the rapport very quickly. You don't have much time. If the meeting, typical meetings are about 45 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour long, and sometimes we may go into 2 hours, 3 hours, where a lot of people have a lot of agenda to talk about. And you may have about 10 minutes, 15 minutes as a convener of the meeting, or if you're delivering a presentation to present your set of ideas. So either you are a convener of the meeting or you are a participant in the meeting who's supposed to deliver a particular topic, particular presentation, particular idea, whatever that role is. You have a certain limited time to build rapport, and you can't build rapport for very long time. You need to build it in the first couple of minutes into your presentation, into your sharing of ideas. What do I mean by rapport? I need to accept you as an expert. I need to accept you as a person who knows what he's talking. That's the first point. So you need to establish your expertise, your knowledge very quickly. Talk about your role, talk about your designation, talk about what you have brought to the table. It could be your personal experience, it could be data, it could be facts and figures, it could be something that you have seen, it could be something that you want to highlight. All of that, if you can and you should establish in the first couple of minutes so that you build the rapport with the team that this person is good and is eligible to talk about this particular topic. Many times it is already established if it's a recurrent meeting, but if it's a new meeting with new set of people in the team, in the hall, in the room, it's important to re-establish that all over again. It's important to do that. Once you build the rapport, then it is time to build that collaborative tone in the meeting so that you are not seen as a combative person. When people ask questions, actively listen to the questions. When people talk about something, pause, let them talk, let them ask questions so that you come across as a person who's empathetic to their issues. You are not intent on just delivering your points and move on. You are there to deliver your points, listen to them so that all of this together moves the company, moves the discussion in a particular direction so that it is fruitful for everybody. So actively listen to what they're talking about, be empathetic about their points, clarify their points, ask questions back so that you understand what their point of view is. With all of this in a collaborative tone, collaborative fashion, using what I call as a V word, not I word. I will do, I am good at it. All of this alienate people from what you are trying to achieve. It's a team effort after all. It's a team meeting after all. And the more we word use, okay, we will look at this solution. We are trying to do this. It aligns the entire team towards what you are trying to do. When you're doing more of that, it ensures that you are in a collaborative mood, and that mood is something that people can touch and feel and see for themselves. And that mood will also push them into collaborating with you, working with you, and tuning their mind in tune with your thought process so that in a collaborative fashion, achieve what you set out to achieve. While you quickly establish rapport in terms of your expertise, in terms of your knowledge, when it comes to the main phase of your presentation, main phase of your sharing of ideas, how persuasively you share those ideas, how persuasively you communicate those ideas is what is going to matter. How can you do that? Simple things that you might want to keep in mind and follow. One, ensure that whatever you do, whatever you speak about is simplified and not complex. Don't use complex jargons. If the people can all understand the same language, it's a, let's say, technical team, and therefore you can talk about technical language, or engineering team, therefore you can use engineering language, absolutely fine. But if it's a mixed team and some people may or may not understand, it is important to give example, illustrate, so that even the non-technical person is able to appreciate what the technical language that you're using. Even better, avoid technical language, avoid jargon, and use simple words as much as possible. The second thing that you might want to remember is use a framework, what I call as the AIDA model. Attention, interest, desire, action. AIDA, AIDA model. You grab their attention with some facts and figures, some stories, some logic, so that they get into the habit of listening to you for those 10 minutes, 15 minutes that you're going to talk. It should be interesting so that they continue to listen to you. It should be something that they desire, not what you desire. It's a company's desire, it's their desire. And finally, you finish with something which is actionable so that they can align on what is it that you want them to do as a common goal that you all want to do together. So grab their attention, talk about something which is interesting for everybody in the room, ensure that it is something which they desire to do, and to end with all of this with actionable items so that they know what is it that you want them to do. AIDA. The third thing that you may want to use or think about is what I call as a rule of three. In speaking, it's an interesting fact that many things, many times, persuasive speakers speak in pack of threes. They will talk about 1, 2, 3. So this is a point. 1, 2, 3. This is a point. 1, 2, 3. This is a point. It has psychological implications because we seem to be able to receive information if it is presented in threes. Okay, starting, middle, end. 1, 2, 3. When it's presented in that fashion, people are able to get it, and therefore you may also want to structure your logic, your arguments in pack of threes. The last point that I want you to remember is, can you tell all this in and with stories? You all like stories, and stories exemplify the point that you are trying to make. You may use facts and figures, but if you can also include real stories, emotional, tonality, then it makes the point very clearly, and also people hook their mind onto the stories, not the facts, and they will remember what you told them to do, why you told them to do in a much better fashion. The other point that I want you to remember is the non-verbal part of your communication. Many times we simply forget this, that there is the verbal part of the communication, what words I'm speaking. There is also a lot more of the non-verbal part of my communication. I'm gesticulating now. I'm making eye contact with you now. I'm varying my tonality and pitch of my voice. All of that are as important as the words. In fact, research typically time and again proves that all of this body language is lot more important than the communicated words themselves are. So imagine, for example, if you ask me, how are you? I say, I'm fine. You know that I'm not fine because my words, while I'm saying I'm fine, is not matching with my facial expression. If you ask me, how are you? I say, oh, fantastic. You know that I'm doing well because my expression, my eyes, and my tonality, all of that match and even give even more volume to the words that I'm speaking. So it's not just the words that you speak, it's also how you speak, which makes a huge difference in terms of whether you come across as a good speaker, good person, and whether you are able to illustrate those points in the meeting. So, what you should do: one, use gestures. Stand tall. If you're sitting and delivering, sit and look at everybody in the room. Don't look at one corner in the room, or don't look at your friend who's sitting there and deliver only to that person. People do this, and therefore I'm calling out, don't do it. There are some, let's say, 10 people sitting in the room. Look at each one in turn and deliver the message. Just don't look at one corner, just don't look at your paper, just look at the PPT and then deliver a message. That's a big mistake that people do. People are there, sit. If you're standing, stand erect and deliver the message. And look at people in their eye while talking. It makes a huge difference for people. Then they connect with you as a person. It's important to connect. Use your gestures so that you make a point. And vary your tone. If you deliver your message in a monotone, saying that this is what we have found in this study, and as we know, this is what we want to do, because as we know, this is what we have been wanting to do, this is a budget we have been allocated. You lost the meeting, my friend. That is not how to deliver. Don't use monotones. You would remember the lectures in the college days where professors droned on and on in monotones where you and I used to sleep. No point. So use the tonality to make the point much better. Speak with expressive facial expressions and speak with expressive tonality so that the emotional quality of the point that you are making also comes across. Otherwise, it may not be a very impactful message that you are telling. The other point is if there are cross questions in terms of, okay, what is this? Why are you saying it? And so on. Pause and listen as long as the time is available. Or you may say that we will take the questions later on so that I will clarify all the points. Listen to whatever I have got to say. Then we can take the questions. Whatever way you are handling the questions, clarifications, actively listen to what they are talking about. There could be different points that the team is making as addition to your points. You should take all of that on board, actively listen and let them participate in the meeting. You also participate in the discussion so that it is a discussion, it is a conclusion towards something that you are doing all of this. And you need to ensure that everything you can do happens towards that goal. The other part is the way you need to handle objections and challenges, which is going to come up after you present. In a meeting, many times what happens is that you share your point of view, share your set of ideas, and then people object to it. People say, no, that is not how I feel. No, I don't think that is right. No, I don't think that is true. This is how I feel. This is what we should do. I don't think that method of yours is not going to work. This is what we should do. People will share their ways of working. People will share their point of view. People will share their objections in what they find as not acceptable parts in your logic, in your emotion, whatever that you have spoken about. It's important that you take it all on board. It's important that you acknowledge them. There are different ways of handling those objections. But before you do any of this, you need to acknowledge objections. You need to say that, yes, I see your point. And thanks for sharing this point of view. When you do this, they half the bridge is crossed because they know that you have listened to them. It's important that you do that. If you don't even listen to them, you can't answer their questions. So they should feel that you have listened to them so that you are in a position to answer and clarify the objections, clarify the challenges, clarify what your point of view is a rebuttal to whatever they are offering to you. So acknowledge their point of view and then move forward in terms of how you see your point of view. You may say that, yeah, that's a valid point. I'm listening to it. And can I now share my perspectives on your objections, my perspectives on your points? Then people will allow you to talk about it. People will also listen to you better. You may also talk about what I call as a feel, felt, found method. Uh, you may say that, yes, I see that you are feeling this manner. So you are acknowledging their point of view, feelings. Yes, I have also felt in these contexts. So you share with them saying that okay, you are feeling like this. I have also felt like this, but in this context only. And you may share, this is what I have found as a solution. When I'm faced with this dilemma, I'm faced with this problem, and so on. There are places where this FFF feel felt found method is very useful. You may want to use that. You may want to reframe their objections. You may say that, okay, I heard you. You were saying that uh, the productivity is not as much as we have seen it, and what to do. So the way I say it, if I were to reframe it, you are saying that probably working in only two shifts is not helping us. So that is where your disconnect on productivity comes. Am I right? So you may want to use reframing as a technique, so that you reframe whatever language they are using in a manner which ties in with what point you are talking about. And therefore, you can take it forward and tie it up with your arguments and move forward. Many times, reframing works wonderfully. But for that to work wonderfully, you should have thought about a lot of those objections in your preparatory stage. If you're the convener, or if you are the person interested with summarizing the meeting, and by the time everybody has contributed, it is now time to close the meeting. Closure should have two, three things going for it. One, somebody should, whoever has the role, should summarize what has happened in the meeting. Summarize in terms of the key points mentioned, summarize in terms of action steps to be taken. It could be a long meeting, 5 hours meeting, and therefore it may not be possible for everything to be summarized. But at least the key highlights of what happened, the section highlights of what happened in the morning, what happened in the afternoon, what happened in the evening, and therefore these people spoke, these were the points mentioned, key points mentioned, that summary should be available. The second thing that should be available is, what are we going to do after this meeting? Many times, because this aspect is missing, many meetings are very, very ineffective. What are we going to do? Okay, this person, after this meeting, we are going to circulate this, whatever material, and then we are going to do A, B, C, D things. Ideally, in the meeting itself, if you are clear in terms of what you are going to do, fantastic, call it out. If that has not been called out, if people have to mull over, come back in terms of what decisions to be taken, keep that as a focus area. Put a time frame by which people will come back with their point of view, people will come back with their recommendation, people will come back with their decisions. Who should take it up so that people can come back with their specified timelines, with their specified actions and decisions. So some of this should be agreed upon in the meeting itself as to, okay, I will come back before next 2 days and let this person call or check with each of us, so that we ensure that our decisions, our recommendations are flown into this meeting agenda. So some of that has to be discussed, summarized, and called out as action agenda of the meeting. And after that, whoever convenes the meeting should just simply stand up and thank people for coming there, thank people who have participated, thank people who have contributed to the meeting. And that is how to conclude the meeting. When we do all of this, when you prepare for the meeting, when you are persuasive, set the tone, collaborative tone, build a rapport, persuasively present your points, build your points, handle the objections, and ensure that people are thanked for their contribution. People also have a sense of participated, having participated in a good meeting towards a good cause, and having spent their time in a productive manner. Of course, you need to follow up with the meeting. Of course, you need to go back with the minutes of the meeting. Of course, you need to go back with the actions taken of basis this meeting. All of that follows the meeting, and it is important to ensure that that follow-up happens. Otherwise, the meaning of the meeting is completely lost. People will know that no action is taken on the meeting, and they will lose respect for the meeting itself. So it is important to follow up and do whatever is supposed to happen of the meeting without fail. But this structure, when you follow this structure, when you follow this way of doing things, any meeting that you are in, whatever that is, whether it is with a client or with the boss or with your team, can be made very, very productive, very, very good meetings. So, wishing you all the very best in all your meetings so that your meetings are very, very productive and very, very useful, and people feel happy to be part of your meetings. Like and subscribe to the channel for more tips like this. See you in our next episode.